Hi, everyone. I want to talk about sharing responsibilities in a marriage, money, kids, and parenting activities, organizing the home, the bills, and everything. This is very common, and even in marriages where the wife or the mom is the breadwinner or she does work 6 days a week, when she comes home, she still feels that the responsibility of the home, the chores, activities, and organizing the kids is on her shoulders. So remember, even in marriages where the woman is the breadwinner, there is an evolutionary reason why this happens. And most of us, we don't realize it. We don't own it. We don't own that it kind of comes from us and we do this to ourselves. So, of course, we end up blaming the husband or trying to push the husband to do some things and try and ask or criticize or blame or complain or nag like we would have like a teenager. I know because I've done this myself. Um, so we end up having this dynamic and it never works to change the things. It breaks intimacy, it breaks closeness. Um, and like I think it breaks marriages when we try the other person to control them, to do things as we want them to be, right? When we try directly to control. So if we know this and if we own it, then we can find real solutions that help us like express what we want in a way that intimacy is preserved. So I recently hosted a workshop on this, and I love hosting live intimate workshops with just a few wives. And we talk about like their personal situation and we customize the advice. But what I'm going to do here is talk about the main lessons from the workshop. So the description was that if you have to ask your husband every time to unload the dishwasher, check if the kids have homework, pick up stuff after him, and generally manage everything in the home because he seems to be blind to all that, living his life like a teenager in the house, it leads to exhaustion, frustration, and the worst part, lack of connection and intimacy. You feel you always have to push. He feels blamed and he shuts down. You both feel it's not fair. Like everyone is upset and like disconnected at the end. And if he spends a lot of time on his phone, right, because he's upset because of all the nagging and blaming, maybe like a lot on his phone, on the toilet, he's distant, irritated, or disengaged, and you are left with a lot on your shoulders. So you don't get what you want. Maybe sometimes he does the things that you ask, but he like mumbles and grumbles, and like you still feel it was icky, right? Like you were talking to a teenager and trying to discipline somebody, or he doesn't do it and he like goes to the garage. So you are left with a lot on your shoulders, hopeless. There is something you can do to change his behavior over time. So you have to be open to a new perspective and try a new way of communicating. It's that simple. So it's simple, maybe not easy to do it because it's not the things we did. Like we're not used to speaking in a respectful way or in a way that works, right? Like we're used to nagging, blaming, complaining because we're so tired and frustrated. Like who even has a time to say it nicely? And it's not about saying it nicely. There's a lot of women who try to say it nicely. It's not that. It's still controlling. We can say it nicely to a teenager, like, please do that. Like, please do your, like, please clean your room. Um, and they still feel controlled and it still doesn't work. So, this video is about owning it, like owning that it's you who wants everything to be controlled. Then in the next videos, like I'll make two separate videos. One will be about um, how to go about sharing responsibilities with talking to your husband about it. And the second video will be how to do it without talking to him. So this is what I did, and this is what I recommend, like not even talking to your husband and just doing it and owning it. But a lot of women like still want to try to talk to their husband and engage their family. And that can work too if you do it how I will say in the video. So first, owning it. I read this recently in a book and it explained it so well. So the author, Byron Katie, was saying that she realized that her kids are happy if their socks are on the floor. So if she is frustrated by the socks being on the floor, this is on her. And she gets frustrated and annoyed and angry, not because of her children, not because of the socks, because of her not owning this. Like, it can sound triggering. I'm all in for changing things, but you can change things effectively when you own that it's about your standards, like this is what you want, and own that uh, you put your happiness and calm on the fact that the house is clean or not. And then understanding why. Most of us do this. Why? Evolutionarily, like we still have the brains of hunters and gatherers. Women used to be the gatherers, so in charge of our meadow, of our place, of the home, right? So no matter if we're the breadwinners and earning millions and millions, we are very in tune with our environment, with our home. We are easily triggered if we see a pillow not at its place. Like if things are not okay in our environment, we see them. It's like things are speaking to us, like the environment is speaking to us, like and saying, emergency, emergency, put me back. I give this example all the time because it happens to me, it happens to everyone. So you go from one room to the other because you have something in mind. But on the way there, like you see five other things, you get distracted because you try to resolve everything in the house. Or before leaving home, like you cannot leave until like you put everything at its place, right? Like everything needs to be arranged because the environment in the home is always speaking to you and trying to get your attention. Look at me, put me back. Like minimalism would be great for all of us. Um, where was I going with this? So we have to own that our brains are wired like that, right? So either we get rid of everything in the home, either we own that these are my expectations. Another example I have, and I give it in workshops, and everyone says, yes, it's true. So, for example, I cannot work if everything is not like perfectly clean on my desk. Like I wipe it every time. Be like when I sit at my desk, I wipe it every time. If it's 5 times a day, it's 5 times a day. Like I wipe it, I clean it, everything is in order. My husband, like you can put him in the middle of a room full of toys and books all over the place, and he can have an important meeting with the CEO and like an important business meeting. He doesn't care. So the environment is not speaking to him. This is evolutionary. So we own this, right? Like we own that this is how our brain works. We own that our expectations are high. Like this is to regulate our nervous system, like for us to be able to be calm, like we have to have like everything clean and in order. Actually, like if I'm stressed and I'm doing something around the home, and if I know that my room is or my desk, like my room when I have my desk is the only room that's clean, I'll just like open the door, look inside, and just get a sense of peace, and then close the door and continue my job, my work, whatever I was doing in the home. So we have this high standard. So seeing that it's not fair impose the same high standards to our kids and to our husband. Yes, I've said it. That doesn't mean you cannot change it, but you have to come from this place of owning it, owning that it's your expectations. Like you have the right to have them, but you can impose them to you. You cannot impose them to other people. If other people are okay with socks being on the floor, this is just an example. So we can like go on here. If other people are okay with this, then they are happy, then it's not their problem. As hard as it sounds, it's not their problem. I will show you in the next two videos. First one, when we engage the family. Second one, when you don't engage the family, how to actually get your way in a respectful way, in a way that preserve intimacy, connection without control, like without any control, but enabled, like in order to do that, like any of the two strategies that I will give you, you have to start like really understand and own and feel it in your body, like own it that like this is how your brain works, this is how your brain was wired, and all women are like this. I'm talking generally, of course, like if there are if there is an exception or two, like that's the exception. Generally, like all women are like this. This is our brain works, and we have high expectations. And this is why we kind of want things also to be done perfectly. We don't like when our kids or husbands don't do them perfectly and we start redoing them. And if we start redoing them, we kind of make it our business. So every time you do like repeatedly do something in your home, you kind of make it your job. You put a label on it, like, this is my responsibility. Even if I ask you to do it, it's still my responsibility to, like, to make sure it gets done. Because I ask you, like, did you do it? Like, you should do this. You should, like, did you do it? If I tell you what to do, when to do, and ask you if you did it, it's still it's making it my responsibility. So I don't trust you. I have to control it. I have to make sure. Like I'm stressed if it doesn't happen. So it's kind of my responsibility. I have many cases where the man in the beginning, he was doing his laundry, he was cooking from time to time, he was vacuuming. So he was like normal because he lived alone before and he was like perfectly capable. With time, the woman started doing more and more, or not being happy, or starting being controlling, or not trusting. And kind of like she took all the responsibility on her. And men, what happens with men? They are not lazy. They just see like if a job gets done, then like why waste my time and energy, right? Like she must be liking, like she likes to do it. Like that's why she does it, right? They don't understand this thing that we have, that we don't prioritize self-care. So this is again another thing that we have to own. We don't prioritize self-care. So men do, and we're frustrated and annoyed by this. But they think that if I'm cleaning the home, let's say, right, it must mean like that's what I want to do, not that it feels like an emergency for me until like the home is not clean. This is just an example. It can like apply to activities, organizing, like anything, money, kids, parenting, whatever. So if I'm not able to prioritize self-care, that's on me. And I have to understand why my brain is wired like that and intentionally change it. Yes, we are kind of born with a few handicaps, but a lot of, if we compare to men with these things, but a lot of other advantages. And I'll tell you about that. So I urge you to take radical ownership of what is happening, right? And see how you've been creating most probably the situation. Because just imagine, like, if you went away, like, if when you get sick or you go away for, let's say, 3 weeks, your husband would be able to survive and like do everything. But because you're already doing it, you're making it your responsibility and your job, you're kind of not letting him do his job. Or if you're always controlling him, and telling him how to do things. He wants to make you happy, and he if he sees you're so controlling, he's afraid to like doing it wrong. So it's better like he lets you do it. Like no matter what you say with words, if you show with actions that um I mean if you do everything, like it's you show with actions and non-verbally that I like to take responsibility of all this. Like this is my thing. Like I have a thing with this and you have to let me if I'm very controlling. So even if you say with words that I'm exhausted or you complain, like this is not communicating as hard as what you're doing communicates. So what you're doing communicates a lot more. Like if you're doing everything from the outside, it looks like you like it, or this is what makes you not happy because probably you're not happy but exhausted. But this is what you want to do. Like men don't understand that you do things without you wanting to do them, or that you're not don't prioritize self-care, like even drinking or eating. I know, like I do that too. Like I cannot even sit down and drink a coffee until like not everything is in order. Take some time if you need to reflect on this and take ownership. When you take ownership, you also have power. So take responsibility also, not for the chores, not for the activities, not for the actions. Take responsibility for what is actually your, like your only, like your responsibility, and and it cannot be transferred to other people. Like you can transfer tasks around the house, but you cannot transfer the responsibility of how you feel and how you think, like of your emotional state, of you being grounded and calm and in control of yourself. Like really how you feel, that's on you. So until you don't understand this, you cannot even actually change it. You're going to keep trying to push, 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 then get upset. Oh, something just fell. Then get upset. So it won't actually work. I urge you to take responsibility, right? Like own it. Like this is what I want. And also, I want to ask you, what would you like to change? Like, please note it down or write it in the comments. What would you actually like to change? And a lot of women tell me when they respond to this question, like around responsibilities, right? I would like him to see more. I would like him to be involved more. This is not specific. This is not measurable. Then you cannot say it. Then you cannot transfer it. If in one sentence, I want him to be like me and think like me and see things like me. He cannot. Like I want him to have the same brain I have. So if you would live with a woman, yes, she would have the same brain and she would see the things the way you see them. But he is a man, so you cannot give him a woman's brain evolutionarily. Like we have different brains, we are wired differently, we have different needs, we see things differently. So you have to know what you want to be changed, like measurable, specific, like really be specific. Like I want him to change the soap. I want him to change the toilet paper. I want him to do the groceries. I want him to put gas in the car. I want him to pay the bills. So be specific. What do you want? Because only when you're specific and clear, that's when you will be able to change it. You cannot wish, like you have to play um, the rules of the game. Like you cannot play against nature. So nature already gave you different needs, different views on things. Um, like really the different brains, right? Like we are different. Like he doesn't see the things you see. So you have to know like what you want to be changed in order then to express it or 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 be intentional with what you're doing and not doing. So even if you're not telling him that you want him to, I don't know, do the groceries, at least then you know, oh, this is what I want to relinquish control of. I have to stop doing it. Either he will do it, either I will like tell him like we're hungry, we need food, you express a desire or a problem. I'll tell that in the next video. But until you don't know, like you won't be able to change it. Like stop wanting, I don't know, like things like just saying I want him to see better. Like he's blind. I want him to see the same things I see. He will never. He will never like just be you. So this is another thing you have to be aware of. Again, when you know the rules of the game, like which is nature, in my point of view, like how we are wired, like and how our brains work, like it's nature, right? Like you have to play with nature's rules so you get what you want. Like you play with the rules, then you can win the game, right? Okay, so I'll see you next videos. This is going to be probably tomorrow. I'll also have some slides that I shared in the workshop, and it's going to be very doable, practical. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.